Good morning and welcome to Walk with the Doc for Valentine's Day. Thanks for coming out, and it's great to see so many people wearing red today. So welcome. So today's topic is related to the Olympics. As you know, the Olympics are going on in Italy, and if you're anything like me, you're sitting there watching the competitions. I see these speed skaters racing around the track, and I'm wondering, how much energy are they expending, and how does that compare to walking on the treadmill in my basement? So the question today is, how can exercise be quantified? Is there an optimal amount of time of exercise? And is there an exercise sweet spot where you get a good amount of exercise and maximum benefit? So first, exercise is measured in METs, metabolic equivalent. The MET is the energy used in doing any activity: sports, cutting the lawn, snow shoveling, exercising, going to the gym. And for reference, 1 MET is just sitting still doing nothing. So any activity that costs 4 METs, walking in through the mall, is 4 times as strenuous as sitting still and doing nothing. So we break out METs into different categories. Light activity is less than 3 METs. Moderate activity, 3 to 6 METs. Vigorous activity is greater than 6 METs. And the higher the METs, the more energy that you're using and the more calories that you're expending. Now, METs are not the same for everybody. It's related to age and gender and body composition, body size and mass. Because if you think about it, walking on a treadmill, if you're a 300-pound football player, you're going to be spending a lot more energy than if you're a 120-pound gymnast. So I gave you a list here of activities and sports and the METs that are required to do this. So just in general bicycling is 7 METs, running 4 miles an hour, 6.5, walking the dog, 3 METs, swimming, singles tennis, 8 METs, doing free weights, 6 METs, Zumba, 6 METs, Pilates, 2.8. And then on the next page we have snow blowing is 2.5 METs, snow shoveling between 5 and 7.5, mowing the lawn with a power mower at 5, and hand mower at 6 METs. And how does this all compare to the Olympic sports that we're seeing? So we have some there. Ice dancing is 14 METs, speed skating is about 14 METs, cross-country skiing 15, downhill skiing 8, slalom 9.3. And this is just for the average person. So you can imagine, if you're just my size and you're doing downhill skiing, you're getting 8 METs. But I can imagine if you're doing Olympic competition, it's going to be even higher energy and higher METs than that. So I gave you a website here that has a whole bunch of different METs, different categories, activities, sports. It's actually a lot of fun to go through and see what the energy cost of doing these various activities is. So I'll leave that for you guys to do. So what's the optimal number of METs per week that we should be doing? What's a good amount of exercise? Well, first, the greatest benefit that we get from exercise is from going sedentary to doing at least moderate exercise. If you go from 0, sedentary, doing nothing, to doing 150 minutes of exercise per week, you lower the risk for heart disease and death by 14% compared to somebody who's sedentary. However, increasing the exercise doesn't necessarily mean you get better mortality benefit. And mortality isn't the only thing that reaches a plateau. Mortality will reach a plateau, as we'll see here. But heart disease plateaus, respiratory disease plateaus, cancer all hit a limit. So on the next page, I have a graph for you. So on the side here, on the left-hand side is mortality, the risk of death. And on the bottom is the number of minutes of exercise. So going from 0, doing nothing, down to about 150 minutes per hour, where the box is the biggest drop in mortality that you'll have. But as you go into 400, 600 minutes, it sort of plateaus. It doesn't get any, you don't get any more mortality benefit. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you take this, ad absurdum, if you just exercise 24 hours a day, all day long, You're not going to live forever. We know that. So there are some limits to the human body. Otherwise, we'd all be on the treadmill all day long, I guess. So now does this relationship of getting better and then plateauing hold for various exercises? So there was a new study out that I thought was interesting and prompted this talk. Looked at 111,000 people for 30 years. And they looked at different types of exercises: walking, jogging, running, bicycling, swimming, tennis, rowing, weight training. All of these gave you a mortality benefit, got better as you started to do them, and then plateaued. So if you go to the next page, it has all of those in nice colored graphs for you. So again, on the side is mortality, on the bottom is the amount of exercise in met hours per week, and I'll describe that in a second. So up on the top we have walking, so going from sedentary to about 5-10 minutes. You get a great mortality benefit, and then it plateaus and evens out. Same thing for jogging, running as well. Swimming, you get better, and then it actually goes up a little bit. Bicycling drops and then plateaus. So that's true of all these exercises. Every one of them is the same. So I'll just describe met hours per week just so you know what we're talking about. Met hours per week is what they use in the study to quantify the amount or the volume of exercise. And it's not important, but I'll just go over that. Met hours per week is the met associated with the activity times the number of hours per week. So if you walk 3 miles an hour on your treadmill, it's 3.8 mets. You do it 2 hours each week, you get 7.6 met hours per week, just as a reference. Now, is there an exercise sweet spot? Is there a number of met hours per week that's going to give you the greatest benefit? And the answer is about 5 met hours per week. On the next page after that, there's another graph, and this is the important thing. This is the time needed per week to reach that sweet spot of 5 met hours per week. So for walking, it's 90 minutes per week. It works out to 13 minutes a day. 13 minutes a day, it's like nothing. You can do that, and that'll reduce your risk for heart disease and for dying. So jogging is 45 minutes per week, bicycling 50 minutes per week, tennis 45 minutes, rowing 60 minutes, weights 90 minutes. These aren't, huge numbers. So to improve your overall health, decrease the risk for dying, you don't have to be sitting there, doing marathons every month. 13 minutes a day, very achievable. The study also found that engaging in different activities actually added a little bit of benefit for the mortality as well. So doing walking and weights, so 13 minutes of walking, 13 minutes of weights per day, will give you even better benefit. So there's multiple reasons why people should exercise beyond, just the 5 met hours per week. So if you want to maintain weight, you want to control blood pressure, diabetes, if you're training for an event, then definitely go and do more than that. And it's always recommended that you do that. Just realize that you don't need that much to improve your health and live longer. So why is there an exercise plateau? Why does this happen? So we know that elite athletes live longer than the general population. But on the other hand, these elite athletes and high volume exercisers end up with cardiac issues. And we'll talk about 3 of them here. The first is coronary calcification, calcium in the heart arteries. So if you get calcium in the heart arteries, it's a marker for heart artery disease and could potentially limit your lifespan. There was a recent study that men who do high volume training, 50 met hours per week, 50. I'm telling you guys to do 5, so this is 10 times the volume of what I'm suggesting to you. 50 met hours per week. They had a higher burden of heart artery calcium than people who are sedentary or non-athletes. That's one, coronary calcification. The other is troponin. Troponin is a blood test that we do. Somebody comes to the hospital, to the emergency room complaining of chest pain, we'll draw troponins. If the troponins are elevated, then we diagnose that you're having a heart attack. So it's a measure of heart damage. Turns out troponin gets spilled into the blood when you do moderate or vigorous amounts of exercise. So for example, more than 80% of marathoners will have troponin concentrations that if they went to the ER and said they were having chest pain, we would say you're having a heart attack. You spill that much troponin with that much exercise. Now they're not having a heart attack, and nobody knows why the troponin is getting spilled. It could just be a physiologic response, or it could be that there's some small transient damage to the heart, but we just don't know. The last thing is fibrosis or scarring of the heart muscle. So we know that the heart muscle will get some scar in elite athletes. Scar on the heart tissue predisposes people to irregular heart rhythms, especially from the lower chamber of the heart. And that can cause or limit lifespan as well. Now, nobody really knows why these phenomena occur and whether there's any significance in high volume exercisers. So changing topics just a little bit, how can we use this, these tables of METs, how can we use this more practically? So the question we'll answer is something that was posed by one of our walkers, where is it? Ken, there he goes. Ken emailed me, at what age should we stop shoveling snow? And he sent me an article about it. So what age should we stop shoveling snow? 11 inches, 20 degrees outside, it's a big workload on the heart. So in this article, one expert said to stop shoveling at 65. Another expert said to stop shoveling snow at 45 years old, thinking that 85% of adults over 50 already have some evidence of atherosclerosis. Now really, you gotta individualize these things. So I do this all the time when I see patients in the office. So if you have established heart disease, you've had bypass surgery, stents, heart attack, AFib, CHF, there's 11 inches of snow, it's 20 degrees out, probably shouldn't be out there shoveling snow. But if you're doing an equivalent amount of exercise regularly, for example, if you're running on the treadmill at 4 miles an hour, that's 6.5 METs. That's the same as shoveling snow at 5 to 7.5 METs. So if you're doing 4 miles an hour regularly in the gym or at home every day, at least 5 days a week, then it's probably okay to go out there and shovel snow. And it really has to be individualized, but that's just a good general guideline for people. Then I use the same thought process in the summer when people come and ask, should I be cutting the lawn? Same thing. If you're going to use a power mower, it's 5 METs, hand mower, 6 METs. And if you're doing an equivalent activity, biking, walking, something like that, on a regular basis, then go ahead and do it. It should be okay. So when you're done here, you're done snow shoveling, you go home, you put on the Olympics, you watch these guys race around the track. So that's 13.8 plus METs that these speed skaters are doing. You're walking on the treadmill at 3.8 METs. So it's almost 4 times the amount that they're doing there. So you can really appreciate it with the effort there. So try to get your 13 minutes in every day, and we'll see you next month, March 21st, same place here. Thanks very much for coming out. I'll do questions in a second here.